Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Zach Bartels. Zach, what's going on, man?
Dude, I'm flipping through some old comics from the early 90s. And I'm going to show them to my son tonight, who was born in 2008. I'm really excited.
What comics you got going on there?
Oh, well, they're apropos to something everyone is talking about these days. They are called the Infinity Gauntlet.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it greatly. I remember when this was my whole world for one summer. This somebody killed Wolverine? No!
Dude, I remember like when hearing about Superman was dead. That was just crazy. The death of Superman.
I bought like 9 copies of that.
Did you
buy a bunch of those?
No, I was a little too young at that point to buy those. I'm a few years younger than you.
Dude, I'm turning 40 in a week. I don't want to talk about how old anybody. We'll talk about how old our guest is because he's older than me. But I remember buying so many of those Superman comics, and they were like shrink wrapped in all black. I opened one to look at what was inside.
Yep.
And then like thinking, oh, these are going to be so valuable. And then I remember looking it up when I was in college and being like, oh, these are worth half of what I paid for them with the newsstand price.
Oh, man. That's kind of funny. Did you ever see the Doomsday that came out, the movie, the animated movie that came out? I don't know. I guess it was about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, it was way better than the Doomsday and the Justice League or the Batman versus Superman movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Which was like a Ninja Turtle. Like the bad Ninja Turtles from the new movie.
Yes. Okay, so not to get sidetracked. Well, actually, to get sidetracked, did you see Ready Player One when it came out?
I did not. No,
you did not?
I don't know why, but I have no interest in that.
It's great. Did you read the book?
No.
Oh my goodness, Zach! With all the references that you and Ted have to 80s, I can't believe you haven't read this thing. Like, it is just a glorious mashup of 80s references. And then the movie does a really good job of it too. But the one disappointing thing about the movie is that they used the new Ninja Turtles instead of like the old 80s ones. And it broke my heart when they did that.
See, now I'm never going to see it.
It's only in one scene though. The rest of the movie is great. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get to our guest in just a second. I'm going to let Zach introduce him. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to Missional Wear. Once again, thanking them for everything that they did for us with the contest. As soon as things are ready to go, I'll let the fans know that we are, when all that stuff is put together and being sent out. Don't forget, it was a big deal going on. So it's going to take a little bit to get all that stuff put together. And as soon as that's ready, I will just blast it out on the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, all that cool stuff. But do want to shout out to Missional Wear. Don't forget to check out all their products. And we have Mother's Day coming up in a couple weeks. And so if you have a mother who is into reform stuff or a wife that's into reform stuff, not only do they have cool stuff for guys, T-shirts and things like that, but they also have great T-shirts for women as well. So you can check out Missional Wear and pick something up that they might enjoy. Zach, anything to add to that?
I was going to say, did you see that I confronted Jeff in love?
Yes, I did. I saw the live Facebook feed that you sent from that. That was great.
And he was super nice, like I knew he would be. And then I was just like, oh, man, this is not that interesting. But then the great coda to this story is that the next day, I was standing up there with my boy Johnny Shekels trying to decide which T-shirt to buy.
Yep.
Either the 5 solas or the Trinity emblem.
Yep.
And I decided on the Trinity emblem, and he went down under the table and found the right. He was finding the right size. He comes up with both T-shirts, hands them to me, and says, "Don't worry about it." Like we're in the mafia, and like it's just like, "Don't worry about it."
Don't forget the cannolis.
Yeah, well, that guy knows how. You know what? He bought me off, and I all my even my funny affected angst about the Happy Rant store is gone now.
Give it 3 more months.
Well, I'm hoping I don't have to give it 3 more months.
Oh man!
Now our guest is his mouth is filling with blood as he bites his tongue because he has things to say about anything comic book related.
That's true. You have no idea. You said I actually have 2 copies of that black bagged Superman in my garage in my box of 10,000 comics.
With the black armband inside?
I don't even know what's inside. I wouldn't open it. If you open it, you ruin it.
Well, yeah, you can sell it for $3.95 or something now if you keep it in mint condition sealed.
Listen, there's going to come a day when those are going to be really valuable.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They printed. They were like America Online CDs when that thing came out, like shoving them in every crevasse.
That's exactly right.
People may be wondering who we're talking to, so let me get that out of the way. I assume most people who listen to this podcast know your voice, but they may be trying to place it because you've been kind of, you know how Batman disappeared and everyone thought he was nuked, and then he showed up, in a quaint diner
Italian
in Tuscany.
diner, yeah.
That's exactly what this is like.
And I'm the Alfred in this case, and I'm just kind of giving you that like approving nod.
Wait a minute. What does that make me? I mean, the only other person in that scene was Anne Hathaway. That's kind of odd.
You're Selena Kyle, my friend. That's who you are in this scenario. I hope you guys are having a nice glass of wine together. But our guest today is Frank Turk, who, because of extensive confusion with the apologist Frank Turek, who I don't even know anything about, he's going online by, what, did you say it? FX Turk? FX Turk?
FX Turk, that's right, FX Turk.
Turk. And you probably know Frank from years and years of blogging on Team Pyro, from, speaking, he did the Nines and some other things, from being an internet menace that must be stopped for a long time, and then famously walking away from it all a couple of years ago, which I thought was an insanely baller move. And I first met Frank. Dude, you realize this? When I interviewed you on my old blog that's now defunct, that was 2009, 9 years ago.
I know,
and we talked comics, and then you drew a sketch of a comic character you had created, and I put it in the text. So that was pretty fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I was just talking to Phil Johnson about this last week. That was like peak Pyro. Those 2 years, like 9 to 10 years ago, that was like peak Pyro.
Yeah, one every day. Yeah. And the center of many a controversy.
Absolutely. And you say they will probably know me. No, they won't know me. That's the whole thing.
Long ago.
As famous no. As famous as everybody who read the blog thought we were, nobody knew me. Come on. Come on. I don't know. If you guys got, I know, Zach, you work in a church. Maybe somebody that you work with knows me. Nathan, what do you do for a living, roughly, so we don't give it all away?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher. If you go into your school tomorrow, if you went into your school district and you asked them, hey, could you tell me who Phil Johnson is? Nobody. Blank stares. They'd be like, Phil Johnson?
Relief pitcher for the 87 White Sox, right?
Exactly. And then if you said to them, what about some guy, Frank Turk, goes by FX Turk, they'd be like, oh, what are you like walking around in alleys? Who are these people?
Right, but Frank, anybody who listens to the Gut Check podcast better know who you are.
Well, they probably
we have some overlap.
Yeah, we have some overlap.
Yeah.
But here's the thing,
okay,
Frank. Don't feel bad about that, because if I went into my school tomorrow and asked people if they knew who Tim Challies was, they wouldn't know that either. So, I mean,
if you went into a school and asked if they knew who Nathan Bell was,
yeah, that's
like,
right. Does he work here?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. That's exactly right. No, it doesn't offend me, because that is actually my point, right? That this whole idea that there are famous Christian bloggers, it's a spoof on itself. There are no famous Christian bloggers. Tim Challies is not more famous than the woman from the 80s, that old woman who used to say, "Where's the beef?" She's more famous than Tim Challies.
That lady is the money, though, dude. Don't undercut how awesome she was. Hey, Nathan.
Yeah, man.
Do you want your show back?
No, you guys take it away. I had a long night, so I'm just going to crash out here while you guys talk.
Before you get to me, let me give you some more of me.
Before you get to me, Nathan, how did you? Which reference is these go up to 11? Which one are you using?
Oh, this is Spinal Tap, man.
Yes, all right, that's the right one. There are others. That's
what are the others?
One. I knew you'd ask me that, Zach, and I should have I should have researched it, but I know there's at least one other that's derivative of Spinal Tap. So.
Oh yeah. No,
You're
Greg.
not familiar with this podcast?
What's
Do I
that?
have to answer that?
Yeah, I guess not. Dude, you should go back and you should binge it. You go back to the beginning and you hear Nathan and Greg Dutcher. Holy cats, man! Nathan and I have some chemistry. Okay, Nathan and Greg, it was like the dynamic duo.
Oh,
Like it was like Batman and Catwoman.
Hey, at least you didn't say
kinda
Boy
hot.
Wonder
You're
there.
saying It was kind of violent and kind of hot, is what you're saying.
All right, moving along.
I have to title this episode that now, Batman and Catwoman.
Yes.
Remember when you were
Do
on the
it.
Gut Check podcast and we wound up talking about Catwoman's sexuality for an
Absolutely.
extended period of time?
Absolutely.
Because that was like in the news.
Because those were the days when she was dangerous. Absolutely.
Oh man, and it's been all defunct now to a
Oh, it's
30s,
it's so
30s
high
dude
school.
with a
It's
beard.
So ridiculous. Exactly. Dad bod Ben Affleck playing Batman. Come on.
Turk. Let me move us forward here a minute.
I was going to take us back for a minute.
Take us back. Take us back.
I was just going to say, Turk. So bringing up Ben Affleck, who would you put in that role of Batman for the new Justice League stuff?
I had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine when we went to see Infinity War. I'd make Henry Cavill Batman.
Okay.
And make somebody else Superman. Cavill as Batman, he would make an incredible Bruce Wayne turned to Batman. He would be incredible in that role, I think.
Okay.
And then Superman is a dime a dozen.
Yeah, I guess
you
that's
can
fair.
get the kid from Smallville to play Superman.
Oh, that would be great. Tom Welling is.
I think it would.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was great.
Yep, I agree.
I think we need an American Batman, but call me, old fashioned.
Nah, whatever. They're all cursed. Once they play that role, they're cursed. So maybe it's good that Affleck did get the curse.
Oh, weirdly, Clooney's career did all right, I guess. Ocean 72 and everything.
Let's not talk about Clooney's Batman suit. I think that that would be the bridge too far.
Dude, on Easter, I said the words "nipples on the bat suit" from the pulpit. And I said, that is the first time, and I hope the last, that ever in any sermon, the words "nipples on the bat suit." I was talking about Doubting Thomas, how he's only known for this one thing, and how Joel Schumacher has made so many amazing films, but every time you see him interviewed, people are like, so Batman and Robin was a turd, huh?
Exactly. Talk about ruining your resume. That's the worst.
But he doubled down on it. Like there were nipples in, weren't there in Batman Forever?
Yeah, that's
next subject.
That's where they started.
Subject.
But then he kept them. Why would he keep them? Why do you keep them?
It was Clooney. He wanted it that way.
Although, can I just say, like, true confessions here? To me, Clooney as Bruce Wayne. Now, I didn't really enjoy him in the Batman role, but I did like him in the role of Bruce Wayne. I thought he did a really good job with that.
He was a weird update of Adam West. I thought there was a very straight line there in those portrayals.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, you stinking cannot beat Michael Keaton.
Oh,
it's
no.
just not going to happen.
Oh, not at all.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
The darkness in his eyes, and just he was born for that.
Well,
absolutely.
Zach, here's the thing,
and
though.
Birdman.
I'll do you one better. Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman in the animated series, and went on to do it for over a decade.
I got a confession. One day, my son was feeling a little under the weather, and I said, "Hey, you want to watch some shows that I used to like to watch when I was your age, or when a little older, 12, 13, whatever." So I bust out The Flash with John Wesley Shipp, the old 90s one.
Yes,
nice.
Yes.
And then I bust out Batman the Animated Series, which I was borderline obsessed with for a while.
Yeah.
And guess what? I thought they both sucked. They didn't hold up at all. That was my reaction. I was like, why don't I like this? What? And my son was bored out of his gourd. And I was like, all right, let's watch the new Flash, because that is more exciting. And it's got the same guy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just different role.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The music was good. The colors and the imagery were good. The stories were lame, and the dialogue was just – it wasn't like, ha-ha, elbow, nudge, nudge, isn't this kind of old-timey noir? It was just like, I wrote this in 45 minutes. Here you go. Say these lines.
The Batman animated series, I will say, it does get better in later seasons because I did the same thing. I went back and watched the first season, and I was like – all right, this isn't as solid as I remember it, but in later seasons, it does get better. And then when you get to Batman Beyond with Kevin Conroy as old Bruce Wayne and then Will Friedle as Terry McGinnis, that holds up, in my opinion. That is a great kind of spin-off series that they did.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'll tell you what though, of all the Batman animated series, and I know you guys are going to fight me over this one, Batman the Brave and the Bold is my favorite.
That was pretty good. I actually liked that one.
Dude, I thought that was the bomb. My kids loved it. I loved it. It was so cross between 1960s Batman and 1980s Batman. I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah. And it was the I forget his name, but the guy who did the voice in the Batman movie was the one who did it in that one as well.
Yeah, he was the guy from the Drew Carey show.
Yeah.
What is his name?
Yeah.
He's got that German name.
Right.
Dietrich something, yes. Yeah, he's got a good, like low, like Bruce Campbell-y voice.
Yes.
I think the best Batman... Man, we're a bunch of nerds.
I love it. This is a great conversation.
Batman movie from my point of view, as a comic fan who was pretty exclusively Batman, Punisher, that's it, and spinoffs, mostly obsessed with Robin. Do what you will, Freud-wise, with that. But granted, I was 14 and wanted to be the 14-year-old fighter. But my favorite one is the one with where Jason Todd comes back. I think it's Under the Red Hood.
Under the Red Hood, yes.
Oh, that's quite good.
Yeah.
And that one is one where I had to put it on the top shelf because I was sure at some point my kid would be like 7 and be like, oh, cartoon, and pop it in and then be like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Scar him for life.
Dietrich Bader.
13.
Dietrich Bader. That's the guy's name.
Okay. Yeah, he's also from Office Space.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That guy's great. Should we talk about controversies in the Gospel Coalition, or is that just too much of a downer?
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying the comic book discussion here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The Gospel Coalition stuff is a downer. So let's not go down. Let's go up someplace.
Oh man.
So hey Frank, tell me this. Yes. Do you have in your boxes of comics the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries from 1991?
I have all of it. The Gauntlet, the War. There's it's the Infinity something afterwards where Adam Warlock is distributing the stones and guarding them. What is that called? The
Infinity
Quest, maybe that's what it was. Yeah, oh yeah, all of that. I'm a huge fan of Ron Lim, and I am a gigantic fan of Jim Starlin. He was such a clever, brainy comic book writer. I just really liked him.
My favorite guy of all time has always been Chuck Dixon.
Okay, I'm drawing a blank.
He did pretty much all the Punisher stuff. He did all of the 90s Robin, like Robin, the miniseries, Robin 2, Robin 3, and then like the first 5 years. And then he did Nightwing, all the Nightwing solo stuff for the first few years of that. He created Bane. And then he got drummed out of the whole industry, out of Marvel, out of DC, because he has conservative politics. And nobody would hire him. Last thing I know of him doing was a graphic novel about Bill Clinton. and he writes books and sells ebooks.
And R. Crumb was illustrating that, I guess?
I don't know who did it, but it was somebody legit. It looked really good, but it was not. I mean, like, he can't get back in on the machine at all. It's not happening.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't Crumb. But go ahead.
Yeah, comic publishing is like that. You're either in or you're out. And it doesn't matter what you did last year. It doesn't matter what you've done historically. You're either in or you're out. That happened to John Byrne all the time. He was in at Marvel, and then he pissed people off, and then he was out. And then he was in at DC and did all kinds of awesome things, unbelievably great things. His OMAC miniseries was incredible. He did all kinds of stuff for them, and then he was out. and and it was because of who he was. It was because they didn't like him as a guy, and it seems stupid to me to not like a guy who's making you all this money.
Yeah, right. That's you're shooting yourself in the foot for.
That's
right.
These
guys aren't super principled. I mean, it's not like we're curing cancer over here. We're making comics.
That's right. Funny pictures. These are the funny pictures.
That's actually
my. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's actually kind of what happened to Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster too, who wrote Superman. They started out and they were doing great, and then maybe you know this, Frank, or should I call you Turk or Frank? Do you care?
Whatever.
All right.
Turkish. Call him Turkish.
You can call me Turkish. Just call me whatever makes you happy.
So Turkish, maybe you know this. So for 20 years, they were basically just down on their luck. I think Jerry Siegel was living in this 1-bedroom apartment in New York, just scraping around, trying to get work and things like that. Finally, when the Superman movie came out with Christopher Reeve, they got their names back into the spotlight. It was like a huge outpouring of fans who finally were able to get their names back out in the spotlight, and they were kind of able to retire modestly. But it was years before they were back in and getting any credit as being the creators of Superman at that point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there was actually some legal activity there too, because it was actually it isn't quite criminal, but it was absolutely just unethical what publishers would do to creators at that time. Yeah. If you invented something back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you invented Green Lantern, dude, that belonged to DC Comics, and you had nothing. That was a DC Comics creation, and you got jack. Are you gonna if you script me some pages this week, I'll pay you, but that's it.
Right.
Well, but that led to the opposite side of things, which was just as big of a gong show, the whole creator-owned deal.
Oh, brother. Image Comics.
Yeah, right. And that, Rob, what's his name, with all the pouches on the belt, and everybody's
pouches
got
and
600
giant shoulders and pecs and 16 abs. The wrong number of his six-pack is actually like a case.
Right. Women have the wrong number of breasts. It's like he hasn't even seen humans.
Exactly. Somebody
those,
told him about humans once, and he's drawing these pictures.
And what's funny is then Deadpool becomes this huge deal, but only because somebody was like, "This is so stupid; it should be self-parody."
Absolutely. That is what happened. The Deadpool series that came out in the late 90s was written by some guy named McGinnis, and I'm trying to remember the artist that drew with him. And I'll tell you what, that first 20 issues of that comic, those were some of the funniest, amazing, great comics. And it wasn't about the hyperviolence or the vulgarity. It was really these existential jokes that Deadpool would tell and play on himself and play on others. It was amazing. Those comics were great.
I have never seen any of those.
Oh, man, you got to look for that in your comic shop, dude.
I gave up on comics when I moved here. I used to have a guy. He'd pull my titles for me and set them aside.
Exactly. That was the guy.
Oh, that guy was awesome. He had his eyes looked in two very different directions, and he had a cat named Neutron, and we called him Newt, that was just walking around free in the store.
Absolutely.
And I would go in there for hours. It was great. And I think what happened was things took a huge left turn all at once, politics-wise. People started using the name of Jesus Christ as the curse word without the squiggles.
Right.
And, there was a major, the sexuality, identity stuff being pushed in a bunch of titles. And I was like, you know what? I'm 28 years old. I'm moving, I'm pastoring. I guess it's time to stop spending $25 a month or more on comic books. And I just never found the new place.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened in my house. I mean, I grew up. I loved comics. I have all of these comics. Some of the comics, even back in the 70s and 80s, were probably not fit for use for kids that are 12 or 14 years old. But there they are. And as my kids started to grow up, I started to sort through the boxes, to introduce them to comics. And then when I took them to the comic shop, I was like, Is this a comic shop, or is this are the adult toys in the back room?
Yeah.
What is this place? And there was one rack. This guy at least he understood where his bread was buttered, because he had one rack that was always spine out, so packed full of those little paperback versions of like Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man and the Archies and Teen Titans Go and stuff like that for kids, you know. And a dad would come in with his kid, and there'd be 4 dads and 12 kids around this one rack, and the whole rest of his store full of face-out comic books. Nobody can even walk over there, you know, for fear that your wife will see you looking at these titles.
Right.
And you know, he was making all his money there. And I asked the guy, I said, well, why don't you shrink the side of the store where nobody walks and expand this stuff? He's like, this is all there is. This is it. And I'm like, well, that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad, you know. So
Turkish, can you on the fly make that the metaphor from that to your experience as the owner operator of a Christian bookstore?
That it is a one-to-one. There's no metaphor there. It's exactly the same thing. It's not a metaphor. It's not even a simile. What would that be? It's not even an analogy. It's a one-to-one relationship. It's redundant. Absolutely. That's exactly what a Christian bookstore is. You know, I turned everything that was decent face out, and I had 8 feet of books, and everything else is spine in, and it's just a, you know, it's a dog's breakfast in there. I mean, I had 4 feet of reference books, you know, where you'd find your Strong's Concordance and stuff with that level of fortitude in terms of reference books. We had 12 feet of Bibles, you know, and we tried to keep good translations heavier weighted than, you know, not great translations. You know, I think I had 1 shelf of the Message. But then, you know, people are coming in, and, you know, women who come into Christian bookstores, they want fiction.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't have 16 feet of fiction, they're going to go to Lifeway, because Lifeway's got 175 feet of fiction, you know. You know, if you don't have T-shirts, you know, I had 1 rack of T-shirts. If you don't have 12 feet of T-shirts, people think that you don't know what you're doing. It's crazy.
There's nothing wrong with Christian fiction. Some people attempt to make part of their living that way.
I'm not running down Christian fiction. I'm just saying that if your life is based on Christian fiction, if all of your Christian reading is Christian fiction, probably need to start over.
So hey, Phil Johnson doesn't know the gospel.
What?
I was just violently segueing us back to our original topic. But never mind. What did you guys think of the Infinity War movie?
Oh, dude, did you guys have both seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and mild spoilers ahead, probably major spoilers ahead for listeners.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to tell you something. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't watched it yet, forget it. All the spoilers are coming, because this movie,
we are going to dissect the crap out of this thing.
I'll tell you what, there were so many good things in this movie. If you're a comic book fan and a Marvel fan and a Marvel movie fan, if you did not love this movie, there is something seriously wrong with you. This was a great flick.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking, you know, for me, I'm thinking about the moments where I was just like, oh, if they do this, they made this movie for me. Just think about when Vision and Wanda are getting attacked in Scotland.
Yes.
What is it you wanted to see? What is it you wanted to see? You wanted the camera to turn around, and there's this silhouette of a guy, and you know who that guy is.
Oh, yeah.
And then the light comes on, and it's Steve Rogers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Now things are going to happen. Now the ass is going to get kicked.
That's
this
right.
is it.
And in the
This
words of Mantis, kicking names and taking ass.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, dude,
Exactly.
there were so many goosebumps moments in that thing where I wanted to stand up and cheer.
Yes.
Oh, so good. The antagonism between Stark and Strange,
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
It was everything you wanted to see in that scene. It was great. You know, the first scene where Strange is in his hoodie walking down the stairs of the Sanctorum, and Wong's behind him, and he's like, "What do you mean you don't have any money?" He's like, "I don't have any money. I protect the thing. I don't have any money." He's like, "Well, I'm going to the deli." He's like, "Wait a minute." He pulls out, "I've got 300 rupees." He's like, "How much money is that?" It's like $1.20. He's like, "Oh, give me a break." And he's like, "I wouldn't say no to a tuna sub."
And then boom.
What a great scene. Yeah, and then boom.
Chemistry between Spider-Man and Strange.
Yep.
Also,
Tom Holland is he should have been. He was born to play Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He is Spider-Man. If he doesn't have spider powers, there's something wrong with the world. That kid is the bomb as Peter Parker.
I can't watch the other one. I can't watch that guy who he's always crying and looks like he's pooping.
Yeah.
I can't watch those old ones anymore. It's just it's no good. And then what's his name in the in-between ones? He was always just
whatever
fumbling through
exactly.
everything.
The kid with the tall hair, Andrew, whatever his name was.
Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield.
Odie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Odie,
yeah.
exactly.
Dude, and when the Iron Spider costume came out.
Oh, yes. That was
Oh,
so good.
That was so good.
Can I just say too?
And did your heart break? Did your heart break when Pepper over the phone is breaking up with Tony? I'm dying there because I was so happy to see her in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because Tony needs Pepper, but there he is saving the world, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. Oh, Tony. Oh,
But here's a question I have: why wasn't he like, "You have extremists. You need to come here and help me"?
Because he cured her of extremists. At
He
the
did?
End of,
Yeah.
Yes, it's in the montage at the end of Iron Man 3. He gets his heart transplant done.
I remember that.
He solves the extremist problem and allegedly destroys all the armors. And they're supposed to live happily ever after. His contract was supposed to expire, but of course, for $100 million, everybody would be Tony Stark.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you can be that cool one more time, why would you not?
Why wouldn't you? Exactly.
Is anyone as cool as Robert Downey Jr. being Tony Stark?
Nobody.
Although,
Nobody.
guys, when Civil War was on, I'd read the comics, I knew the broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
I was thoroughly Team Cap.
Oh, yeah.
You got
and
normal people were Team Cap.
Yeah.
Posers were Team Tony.
Yeah.
There's no question.
There's no getting around that. I mean, Captain America, like going back to Civil War, every single, argument that they were posing to him. I mean, just how cool and collected and composed. It's like, when they're talking to him about, being accountable, and it's like, look, the safest hands are still our own.
That's
what
right.
if they send us where we don't want to go, and what if they don't send us where we need to go?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And I thought, I have to be honest, I thought they were going to screw that all up. Because nobody, I mean, you have to have this kernel of common decency and basic American values really to get Steve Rogers, you know? Yeah. And I just for any writers to be in that writer room writing those lines to get it's stunning to me. I mean, even at Disney, I didn't have any way to think that they were going to get it right. And there's Cap doing the right thing.
Yeah,
same guys who wrote "There's Only One God, Ma'am," and I'm pretty sure it doesn't dress like that.
That's
exactly.
They had it
exactly.
down.
But then they're the same guys who wrote Peter Quill's line in this movie, which I almost walked out.
Oh, the Jesus one. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And that guy's a legend. I mean, I don't know much about him, but I've read his testimony, like he's a believer. And so the line we're talking about, if you just don't care about spoilers, is the Guardians of the Galaxy are in a Mexican standoff, if it's okay to call things that anymore, with some of the Avengers, and they think that each of them thinks the other guy is working with the other team's working with Thanos, and he says, Doctor Strange says, "Who's your master?" And so Star-Lord says derisively, "What am I supposed to say, Jesus?" And then he goes, "Oh, so you're from Earth." So now we're not in this fantastical world, a la, Tolkien or somebody, where different rules apply. No, now we're in the world where there are these gods, and then people on Earth follow Jesus, but it's something to be scoffed at. Yeah, I that took me out of the movie pretty quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was hard for me, and and here's the thing. Okay, so this is the kind of elder at my local church I am. I had my care group come with me to the movie. So I'm sitting in this movie theater with all my Christian friends, and that line comes out, and I was like, oh my heavens. And we walked out, and they're like, Frank, there was no way to see that coming. You couldn't have known that was coming. That was the worst. It was just the worst.
What were they trying to gain with that? Like, I mean, I get how
that's
they
exactly.
had to do something
how did
to show
it
he was
advance? Yeah, but there was a funnier line. I'm sure there was a funnier line.
You mean there was a funny line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was meant to be a joke. It was meant to be Star-Lord potty humor, except taken to the colossal degree that they tried to take it, and it's just a big fail.
And there were so many good lines that he had in that.
Oh,
I mean, all of my favorite was your plan is good, except that it sucks, and maybe I should do the planning, and then maybe it'll be really great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or the whole scene with him and Thor. That was stellar.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Him changing his voice and them saying, "You just changed your voice." I did not change my voice.
Came away with both my eyes too, though, so no big deal. Honestly, though, I don't think they surpassed. I did like it, and it's up there. It's tied for first with some other Marvel movies, but there was nothing in it that gave me. Like, you remember in Winter Soldier, which is by far my favorite Marvel movie, one of my favorite,
absolutely,
action movies. When he's in the elevator and he notices and he goes,
"That's right."
Before this starts, anybody want to get off?
Want to get out?
Yes.
Oh my God!
Yes.
I can watch it all day long, over and over again.
Although
absolutely, that scene could just stand alone. That if I had paid $14 and that was all they showed me, I would have been.
That would have been worth it.
That was worth it.
I was going to say though, the Marvel has done a great job because nobody makes a second entrance like Thor. Like when you go all the way back to the first one and he's killed, and then he comes back with his hammer. And then you go into Ragnarok, where he's like lost his powers, and then he gets them back. And then this one, where he gets Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat those entrances where he's just coming in full blast with the lightning.
Absolutely.
Never been a big Thor fan. In the comics, it was the other Thor, the bearded guy. What's his name? Eric something.
Yes.
During the Infinity Gauntlet, which is weird. There was an Infinity War comic, but it was kind of incidental and came after this story they were portraying in this movie. But I guess it's just a better title. But I have never been a big Thor fan. But these movies, Hemsworth is pretty good, and he makes you he plays up the cheesy campiness just enough, but with a straight face just enough so you care.
Right,
it's pretty well done.
Well, I think that has evolved, though, right? Because the first Thor movie was nothing like that.
Yeah,
it was too straight, right? And then the second one was too dark, too heavy, and then the excuse me, that's my wife. That's my wife playing the Wonder Woman tune. I was Hemsworth and Thor. Yeah, the first movie not great. The second movie, not great. Then the third movie sort of went out on a limb. It said, how could we do this different? Right? And it really went full on Guardian, right? I mean,
right.
It was very much in the mold of Guardians, except a little cleaner, which I really appreciated. And I think that what they did was they took the best moments that Thor had in the Avengers movie, those like he's my half brother. Those moments, and they said that's the Thor we have to do. That he's a dude. He's like the cosmic dude.
Yeah, it's bro.
Yeah, exactly.
They let him be what he looks like he is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Point Break.
Yeah.
Well, strongest Avenger, first Avenger. Point Break. So I don't know, Nathan, if you no, you were too young. Okay, Turkish. What did you think about the deviations from the comic book story? Namely, the absence of Mistress Death, who Thanos is really the whole time trying to woo.
Yes. See, I think I think it's interesting how they have made it possible to not make that necessary. I think in the comics and in the comics, see, that is such a deep thread in Thanos' own character from the beginning, from when he's a Marvel, Captain Marvel enemy, right? When he lives on Titan with his father and his siblings, and he's Marvel's enemy there, and he's not really this cosmic enemy yet, but he's still kind of powerful all the way to the beginning. I mean, that's what his name means, right? It's a compression of Thanatos, Thanos, that's his deal, is death. And eventually he comes to love and worship death, and he wants her to love and worship him, but she either scorns him, right, because he's not enough,
right,
or she worships him because he's too much, but she can't love him the way he loves her, right? That whole storyline in Starlin's development of Thanos is just so clever. It's so cosmically perplexing. It goes to Starlin's existential writing of comics, that he does this thing where he's really kind of trying to look at deeper questions than who's going to punch who in the face next, even though he does that so well as well. But
it's metaphysical.
Yeah, exactly. It's metaphysical gut punches, exactly. So it's quite good. But I personally think that it's interesting where they have Thanos right now, right? Because he's used the gauntlet, he's achieved his goal, and then he's sort of sitting in his hut, looking out over the universe, thinking that all will be well.
Right.
And we don't really have a way out to say, things can be fixed, because it doesn't seem like things could be fixed.
Well, spoilers for the next movie. I think we know Nebula's still around, and if you've read the comics, you know what's going to happen. But
we hope. That would be so cool. I think that would be so cool if that's really what happens. That would be unbelievable. But here's the other thing, Zach, because you asked the question so well. What do I think about the deviations from the comics? I think the really incredible thing about the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it is a version of the comics without being slavish to the comics. Mm-hmm. Everything about these movies is kind of the fan. This is the only way I can say it. The fan service movies versions of those comics, because Steve Rogers' origin, it's not exactly like the comics, but dang it, it's so good, the Red Skull, so good and not like the comics, the development of the Avengers, so good and nothing like the comics.
It goes beyond the movies though, to the television. I mean, look at all of the Defenders, same thing except for Iron Fist. I mean, like Matt Murdock.
The best line in that series is when they say, "You are the worst Iron Fist ever." That's the best line in that series. But yes, no, I'm with you, Zach. Finish what you were saying.
I was going to say the Punisher, same thing. Like,
yes.
I mean, not very different, a little different, but in a way where you're like, this works, and you're right. Respecting the source material. You're not bowing before it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I personally think that's the big problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can't figure out how to do homage to the source material. It's this – I don't even know what it is. It's the worst TV superhero show I think ever. I just can't get attached to it. There's nothing about it that appeals to me. It's the worst. I mean, they had characters on there that I was dying to see more of. They did a version of Madame Mask. I'm all about that. If you know anything about the early 70s Fury and his fight against the life model decoys in S.H.I.E.L.D., that was great stuff. That was fantastic stuff. They basically waved it up in the air and, they made half a pizza out of it. I mean, it was terrible. It was rotten. That show annoys me. I don't even watch it anymore. It is so bad.
Turk, I'm sorry you don't have any strong opinions on any of this stuff.
Oh man, this is my wheelhouse, dude. You think blogging about religion was my wheelhouse? This is my wheelhouse.
Oh, believe me, man, I know. Dude, because, you and I get together, Detroit at Big Boy or the whatever the pizza place that gave me diarrhea and stuff. We weren't talking religion; we were talking comics.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And this is how I know, Zach, that you're really my friend and not just some guy. So when I was growing up, Zach, so in Rochester, New York, there used to be this place called Empire Comics, and it was such a great comic book store that it had 2 locations, and it actually advertised in Marvel Comics. And they actually usually had a quarter page where you could order back issues and comic book boxes and bags. I mean, they were the deal, and it was run by these 2 brothers who were twins. And one of the brothers was the one they each worked at one shop, and one of them was Jimmy. And me and my younger brother John would go into the comic book store. They would pull your bag, right? And if you didn't buy your bag, they'd call you, and you'd had a week, and then they put it on the shelf, and then they wouldn't pull the bag anymore.
Yeah, you don't shop out of the bag; you buy the bag.
That's right. You buy the bag. They pulled the bag so they would buy the bag. But the funny thing was that this guy Jimmy, John and I called him Jimmy the Gypsy, because I'll tell you something. If a comic book store could be a pawn shop, Jimmy would run it. Because that's the kind of guy he was. And I'll tell you something. Some comic book stores they have some of the back issues, right? They if you go browsing for something, you might find it, you might not. It's kind of like a rummage sale. I'll tell you something. If I went in there and I bought Nova #1, the first Nova #1, and I took it home with me, I bought it and I put it in my file cabinet. If I went in there 2 weeks later, Jimmy had a new Nova #1 in the box. He was not going to be out of stock. Nice, he was the man. He was also evil because if you got a guy's name wrong in a comic book, he'd be like, no, you better take your bag home.
Let me ask you guys: have you ever been to Midtown Comics in Manhattan?
No.
Oh my goodness, it
Have
is. Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. My wife and I love going to New York City, and we go there once or twice a year. And every time we go, Midtown Comics is one of the places that I have to go every time. Even though I've probably seen everything there is to see there, I love going there and just looking through everything over and over again. Pick up comics every once in a while. It's just it's a great place to be. It's weird because when you think about Manhattan and you think about the real estate and everything, particularly in Midtown, you're literally a block away from Broadway. They have 2 floors, 2 full levels of comic books there to just browse through. It is unbelievably great. If you ever get a chance to get there, that is a place I highly recommend 100%.
I've only ever been to New York with Ted Kluck, and there was no way he was going to be going to a comic book store.
Ted's the coolest snob you're ever going to meet, I swear.
If it was a sports memorabilia store and comic store, maybe.
Exactly. If it had baseball cards and comic books, maybe he'd darken the doorway.
Yeah, if it's his kind of nerd and my kind of nerd, but yeah, I've been really excited because when we were on the way home from the movie a couple days ago, my son said, "You have those comics, right?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I read them?" And I said, "I have to look through them first." And I just did that. And yeah, there's they're goofy death scenes. The way that Thanos kills not just half, but all the heroes who are assembled by Adam Warlock to get him. It's all like goofy, crazy, almost like Roadrunner or Itchy Scratchy, something like that.
Right. Well, exactly.
Right. So,
well, it's like the scene where they're in Nowhere, right? Where he turns one of them into a ribbon and the other one into blocks that fall.
That happens in the comics. Exactly that.
Exactly. That
it was his
to me. That was
brother's name?
was fan service.
Yeah, you're right. His brother, the guy who he takes his mouth away to, he's got the Wolverine haircut. Good grief.
It's not Firefox. It's something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, he turned him into like the ribbon, and the torture of Nebula was even worse. She was like rotting and like dead but alive.
Yes.
But it was really disturbing in the movie. Like you could see her brain. I don't know if that's the organic brain or what they have going on with her, but. It was the perfect combination of new stuff and old stuff. And honestly, I am very afraid because the last 3 or 4 times a 2-parter type thing was wheeled out to us in the big blockbuster movie sphere and raised the bar like this. I'm thinking about Pirates of the Caribbean 2. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And then the third one was a turd. Or I'm thinking about like, what do you call The Matrix Reloaded? And I know a lot of people don't like that second one at all. I thought the second one was money. The third one was just a turd. And I'm like, they better get this right. The second half of this story.
Yeah, but let's be fair about a couple of things here. I mean, first of all, how many movies does Marvel Studios have right now? I mean, I don't think
it's 19 with this one.
Yeah. It's an insane number of movies, and how many of them actually were a 3 or worse?
4 maybe.
Thor. Oh yeah, the 2 Thor movies, probably a 3.
Yeah, right? I'd say those 2, and then I'd say probably I don't know. I mean, Ant-Man was good.
Don't say anything bad about Ant-Man. Exactly.
No, I'm not going to.
Ant-Man's a great movie.
I'd say Iron Man 3
Iron Man 3 was a 3.5 star.
No way. Iron Man 3 was the best of the Iron Man movies.
No, it was not.
Oh, by a lot.
Iron Man 1 is the best of all of those movies.
No way.
It's incredible.
I'm hanging up.
And I would say that
okay, but my point here. Now, listen, not to get distracted by whether or not you're wrong about Iron Man 1, which you are. This is what I'm trying to say. Given their track record, there's no way this movie is going to be a failure. Now, it might disappoint a little. I think it's possible, but I'll tell you something. All of the movies that I really love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are Russo movies, and I have confidence in those boys. Yes. They get it. And I'll tell you something else. The thing that keeps me keeps me engaged with Marvel movies is and I'm going to say this way, the Disney-esqueness of them. You know, there is a texture, there is a quality, a production value in Disney movies, even those stupid high school musical movies where these things are done in a way which there's not another way to say it. They're professional and they're artistic. They get all the beats of the kind of movie they're supposed to be. And I think that is probably the best thing that has happened to Marvel is that these things came together so well, and I just have total confidence, and I have a lot of confidence in it really because I mean the reports are that they have sort of double shot the movie, right? That they shot the first movie and kept shooting till they were done with the second movie,
right.
And maybe they'll have to go in to do some reshoots, but they knew from the beginning how the second movie was going to end, and that's the formula for making these things successful, not making it up on the fly.
Yeah,
which is what they did with like the Pirates movie,
right?
When you get behind the 8 ball and you're like, oh, we'll figure it out. We've made great movies before,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys speaking of the Russo brothers? Did you notice Tobias Funke?
What?
No.
Because in Civil War,
I saw the credit.
They put the stair car in the back, right? You saw at the airport, the blue stair car is in the background. Yeah, at that amazing scene at the airport, and then in this one. They put in right when you go into the collectors, which I guess it turns out to be altered reality, but
right.
You think it's real. Right when they go in, you look to the left, and in like one of the little cells is Tobias in full Blue Man makeup with the cutoffs on.
You're lying.
I'm not, dude.
No, I totally missed that.
Now I got to go spend $15 to go see that movie again.
Well, you wanted an excuse anyway.
You're right. I did.
There is straight up nothing funnier than a little Arrested Development dropped into the middle of.
And now I have to not make the joke, Zach. Thanks a lot.
What that he
don't say it. Don't say it.
You know what? I tell you what. You get yourself a tape recorder and just listen at the end of the day.
Exactly. Do you ever hear yourself?
Blah 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 blah. Oh man! Oh yeah! So yeah. I have total confidence. I am very jacked up about Ant-Man and the Wasp this summer. I think it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Yep. Captain Marvel out in March.
I have this. I've got this big shoulder shrug about Captain Marvel, right? Because of the closing credits scene. I'm like, what? I mean, this is out of the blue. This is literally out of nowhere.
But the movie in March is going to be set in the 90s, so they're retconning it so that she's already established, and they're calling in the last resort of the last resort.
Well, how does Nick not know that she's not been evaporated?
Yeah, well, I don't think they realized people were being evaporated at that moment because they had not yet. He
just saw Maria being evaporated.
Yeah, true. I don't know. Yeah,
Hail
I don't
Mary
know.
pass, maybe.
You can overthink these things quite easily. I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm about to go full on nerd, so be careful.
What have we been at this about 2.5 hours now?
Yeah, exactly. My daughter's in the living room laughing. She's like, "Oh, Dad, it's way too late for that."
Before we wrap this up, we got to talk a little bit about the shield you made and the cosplay stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you still have the shield?
I wore the costume. I wore the costume to the movie. Why wouldn't I? My daughter wore her Winter Soldier costume, and I wore my Cap costume. Why wouldn't I?
I thought you were going to sell the Captain America shield years ago.
No, it's wooden. I mean, nobody really. It looks good enough from a distance, but it is not. I don't think it's sellable. I don't think anybody would buy it. It's for me.
Did she make the arm, the Bucky arm?
Yes, dude. We have won contests with this costume.
Nice.
If you go to Instructables.com and look up Winter Soldier costume, there's an Instructable there to build it the way we built it. We literally took pictures as we were building it, and the arm. The way we built the arm was we found this $20 leather jacket, and we took the left arm off of it, and we unsewed it. We cut all the seams, so we laid it out flat, and then we made a pattern for the arm where we were going to cut the stripes for the metal arm out of foam. But before we cut the foam, we actually laminated it with silver lame fabric. And once it's all glued together, once the lame is glued to the foam and you cut it, there's no frizzling, and it looks like stripes of steel.
Nice.
And it gives you the flexibility. You know, everybody else is walking around with these casts that they painted silver, and it's like, why would you do that to yourself? That's the worst. You know?
Nathan, have you ever wanted to get into the cosplay stuff?
Well, yeah, actually, there's every year we would do superhero day at school, and so one year I was the Hulk, totally painted my body green. One year I was
Commitment.
Clark Kent, so I did the glasses, and then underneath I had the Superman shirt with the tie half undone.
Yes.
I did Wolverine. I actually still have the claws for Wolverine, so like I'll legit, when I go Wolverine costume, I will cut my hair and spike it up, and then I will grow my beard out to do my beard, so it's like legit Wolverine hair and everything.
Nathan, you've got a little bit of a Logan look to your face, man. The jawline and stuff. I can see that.
I'll have to try to remember to send you the pictures. 2 years ago, I did the Logan thing. I had a plaid shirt on with my jeans. I had my claws, and then I had the hair and everything done up. I'll try to remember to send you a pic of it.
Oh, you got to put it on your blog, dude. You got to put it on the blog for this podcast.
I'll try to remember to put. Yeah, I'll try to remember to put it on the Facebook page for this.
Yeah, there you go.
And then a little thing at the bottom says, "Don't mess with Nate. He's a purple belt."
That's the deal right there, buddy.
You guys, this has been so refreshing. The last episode I recorded of anything, we were talking to Doug Logan in Chicago, and I said, "Has anyone ever called you Weapon X?" And everyone at the table looked at me blank stares, and I was like, "Oh, you people!
They're not even. Those aren't even people. Where'd you find those mannequins?" Somebody who doesn't get a Weapon X, come on. I mean, there's literacy and then there's literacy.
Right.
Before we go, I got to ask you guys this one question. All right, so Disney has officially bought out Fox and now has the rights to X-Men.
Yes.
How excited are you to see crossovers now?
Oh, I'm jacked. And it's not the X-Men that I'm jacked about. It's the Fantastic Four.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Dr.
brother.
Doom.
Dude, I don't even care about Dr. Doom. They need to do a Fantastic Four movie with the Mole Man. They need to rock that thing. They need to give it the full Marvel. And let me tell you something. I have been waiting 53 years for that movie. I cannot wait.
Unpopular opinion. I think the last one sucked, but I think the one with Chris Evans and Dark Angel.
It wasn't bad.
I thought it was
like those two.
Solid movie.
Silver Surfer.
And Chickless as the Thing.
Yep.
Exactly.
I own that Blu-ray. I watch it maybe twice a year. I think it's a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I'm just kind of a Chris Evans. You know how people have man crushes?
Yes, I get it.
He's amazing.
I get it. He's so sweet.
And he can play like because if you're playing Johnny Storm with all the swagger and all the arrogance, and then you're playing Steve Rogers with the
humility
the exact
and he sells them both.
Yeah,
sells them both.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The guy's the man.
Oh, you know what? You've seen Scott Pilgrim, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's great in that movie too.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's pretty much great in everything. And what's funny is like. At first I saw him in like Cellular or something a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought he was just like a kind of a meathead, like how I kind of feel about Channing Tatum now. Like,
right.
Yes.
He's just there for women to look at, and he doesn't, he can act fine, but he's not really special. But he really won me, and he was in The Losers too, another comic adaptation, and that was one of my favorite comic series. And they really nailed that, and it just right under the radar. No one knew about it. No one cared about it. And it had Chris Evans as one of my favorite characters.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm going to have to look into that now. I had forgotten about that.
Oh, you didn't see that?
I didn't see it.
Oh, you'll like it. It's almost better than the comics, really.
Yeah. Well, how about Red? Red's a comic adaptation.
Oh, that was good.
See, I've never seen the comics, but I love the movies.
Oh, the movies are so good.
Yeah.
I don't even care about the comics after the movies. The movies were so good. Bruce Willis, Die Hard, obviously classic.
Yeah.
But he is so good in that movie. He's just so good in that movie. And Malkovich is
Yeah.
so
I get the
good in
pig.
that
Yes.
movie. Exactly. I get to get the pig. Exactly. That's exactly right.
And when that lady comes out and then he wanted to blow her head off, and they're like, "No, she's
Yeah.
not." And then she's like, "Bad move, Grandpa. Can I shoot her now?"
Absolutely.
This whole thing has just been us going, reciting movie lines, and then going, "Yeah, that was great." And it's a podcast now. There you go.
Absolutely. It'll be a podcast. It'll live forever on the internet. Thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, man. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Zach, Frank, we just rocked the Casbah.
Oh, dude. I would do it again.
These go to 11.